from the start.
Ah, I think I hear you now. Hello?
Hello, Mariana.
Hello, how are you?
We're good, we're good. How about you?
I'm good. I was
Yeah.
just having a really quick dinner.
Where are you,
in
Mexico?
Mexican time. No. But I just back from Mexico, so I still have my Mexican habits.
Okay.
Having dinner at 8, very late.
That's a Mexican habit?
Sí. No?
I don't know, like that can be also a very European habit, like eating late.
Yeah,
Eating
but like in a
late.
classical European family, you eat at 6.
Usually you eat at 6, exactly. Yeah, here in Amsterdam also, in the Netherlands. So that,
Okay. Cool.
yeah. Are you all
No.
in Hamburg?
Yeah, well, me, I'm in Hamburg. And then, I don't know, Marcelo.
Mama, das ist ein Mikrofon. Wir sind live auf Sendung. Okay?
Yeah, I'm in Hamburg. Lucas is also in Hamburg, and Marcelo is in North. I don't know which is the name of his city. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, we just have to wait 10 minutes until we start, and then
Okay.
and then we make like
An introduction.
a little
Okay.
bit of introductions.
All right.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I'm going to grab a beer. Sorry.
Nice.
Do it.
Good idea.
Oof, my PC is not really managing well, I think.
Why?
Kind of everything at once, like streaming and,
Mm.
Yeah, but I also have like a MacBook Air, like it's not really good quality and worked offline last time.
Sometimes I just had a lot of stuff open that I needed to close. Now it's working also, but the old one was a bit faster in that terms.
Maybe I'm just going to send a link to Panosmico.
Yeah.
Just that they look on the website for the link. But not rating for me or anything. Maybe I'm also writing Andreas. It was nice that he joined last time.
Yeah.
Cheers. Salud.
Salud.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What about Heidrun and Shannon and all of those?
Or no, bro.
I guess they will join, but last time Haitun was eating while we started, so maybe she thinks like she translated.
It's funny how it becomes like this sort of waiting living room, like when you have a party and then only a few people arrived and it's like, okay, it's slowly starting.
Yeah, true.
Is this the second time you do this?
Yeah, it's the second time. We don't know exactly like what exactly is that we are trying to do, but we're talking and we're trying to also develop the idea with the persons that are willing to come into the process. Hello.
Hola. Hello.
Hola.
What's up?
Hello.
What's up? It's
So we
just I
just-
saw Marianita and it was quite nice to see her.
Yeah. She is with a chela in the hand.
Yeah, we should do the same,
Exactly.
all of us.
La chela.
Hello.
Hey, Mariana, Manolo.
There.
Okay.
No, but yeah.
I can't see you. Ah,
Cool. We have a lot of Mexicans in the room.
Yeah, we overruled the
overruled.
outnumbered.
Nice.
Yeah, we just waited 2 minutes because we have a 10-minute like just initial waiting time, and then 2:10 we start with the introduction.
Bueno,
So you can still check your WhatsApp messages and stuff.
Thank you so much for allowing us.
exactly. I don't have any. I feel a bit stupid now.
You have no messages?
No.
You're not famous enough. Already.
I'm
No,
depressed.
But you have Instagram and you have.
Go there.
Go check your phone. Look at another screen. If this screen is not working, just there's a backup plan. There's a backup plan.
Well, that's with social media, no? Basically, you cannot escape. If you erase your Facebook, you still have your Instagram. If you erase your Instagram, you still have Slack. If you erase Slack, you still have Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have one?
Yeah.
We cannot escape.
Lesson of the day.
But what were you saying, Marianita? What were you complaining about?
No, that nobody sends me messages. So Cone told us, go look at your messages, but I feel bad now.
Yeah, okay, I see.
I have no messages.
No friends. Complete isolation.
Yeah. The only thing I received is like panic messages from my family.
Oh no.
Where are you at right now?
Huh?
Where are you right now?
In Amsterdam.
Ah. So we have 2 people from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
3 people. Yeah, 2 from Mexico. 2 from Hamburg, and I'm in the north of Germany, close to the border of Denmark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's start, Lucas.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the second edition of the Digital Temple. I'm really happy to see so many faces. And this idea of the Digital Temple was started by us, I'm saying Loom, like the collective that we are all part of. And we started it as a format to kind of like have like social encounters in times of COVID-19, and to establish a format where we could accumulate knowledge and also reflect on this knowledge in regard to relating it to phenomena we are witnessing at the moment. Last week we had Panosmico giving us a presentation. So Panosmico is Mariana and Manolo, the ones down there on the right, exactly. And they presented an exhibition they did in a small exhibition space in Mexico City, Liga. And their project was about a polluted river in Mexico City. And from there, we had a really interesting conversation about kind of like the impact this idea of purity has in terms of morality, but also in relation to this COVID-19, because now we kind of like have this drive for cleanness that is affecting all of us. And we also had Anna as a guest last time, and and we had a lot of conversations, and it was really interesting, and it took for 2.5 hours. but we thought maybe like this digital temple needs a bit more structure this time. So that's why we structured it a bit differently. So for this digital temple today, we first have 2 presentations. And these presentations will take like about 15 to 20 minutes. And the first presentation will be given by Loom, by us as a collective. And we will give an insight in our practices as a collective and in our project, and to also kind of like explain how from our projects this idea of the digital temple kind of derived from. And then the second presentation will be by Mariana from Amsterdam, and she will talk about the spaces in between us in times of COVID-19. And while we're having those presentations, we're going to collect questions and thoughts which could potentially be cross-referencing both of the presentations. And we collect them in the Zoom chat, but you can also write them down, and then we collect them after the 2 presentations. But we won't have a discussion after the first presentation. We have the 2 presentations first going through, and then we kind of like try to start a conversation of questions that arise through these presentations. So what we're also trying to do is kind of like to establish formats that like kind of like come up, because last time I by myself presented the Corona scene map, which is a map that is kind of like trying to monitor the shifts of power that are occurring in these times of COVID-19, and we now want to give it a weekly update, like just like a small update. But this is like how we're going to start this digital temple meeting or gathering of today. So let me show you the Corona scene map, and then I will lead you through the small updates I did based on news of the last week. So this map is fueled by the open archive that we also have on our website. There's a link to it, but it's a Google Docs file, and we're collecting different content related to COVID-19. And based on this articles, we also update this map. So on the winner side of the situation, towards the economic left, not that much changed. When you go to mainstream, you kind of like see the phenomenon in New York that like famous prison people are going to be released because danger of like getting the COVID-19 in the prison, especially if you have like asthmatic problems, is too high. So 6ix9ine was released this week.
Lucas, are you sharing? Are you sharing? I don't see this. I don't see the image.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sharing my desktop. I'm sharing only. I have to stop it for a second and.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Sorry for that. So exactly, again, as I said, on the economic left, we don't have that much change at the moment. Benjamin Breton kind of like had an essay this week and arguing for kind of like a globalist solidarity and changes over there. This essay is really to recommend to read. Then towards the mainstream, we have this news, which I just told you about 6ix9ine. Then we see this phenomenon of the crisis leaders that are profiting of this crisis a lot. And we see Sebastian Kurz entering, so because Austria is the first European country that is going to do some changes to the restrictions, to lower the restrictions. And we also see this phenomenon of the crisis leaders as a phenomenon of nationalist thoughts, because the borders are raised again. And we see Donald Trump, he got a pirate eye now, because the Berlin interior minister called like this acts of his government modern piracy, that they're going to like that they're taking the masks like directly at the airport in China and export them to the US, even so maybe some packages were like directed to other countries in the first place. And then we have the news of Boris Johnson. I won't go into him being now in the hospital, as this is like kind of like hard to influence the map in this way. but there was interesting news because he was saying there really is such thing as society, contradicting Margaret Thatcher, which we see down here, who said in the 80s, there is no such thing as society. They are individual men and women and their families. So to even see now like really conservative left politicians kind of like pleading to this notion that there is some society and some sense of society is kind of like really showing the shift towards maybe like more collectivism, which we are seeing right now. All right, I think that's it for this short update. And yeah, I think we can go over to Marcelo right now to start the presentation of Loom and its practices.
Hello, everybody. It was super nice last time to hear and have an insight on the work of Panosmiko. And because we didn't found too many new inputs by now, we just wanted to fill up the space because we like this kind of informational beginning for the temple really much. So I will just guide you through like what we did. So maybe it's a little bit more structured than what we have on the Instagram because we never thought about doing it there. Here you see right now, this is a list for our website of all the projects that we did. And we highlighted some that we want to show you, which somehow relate to each other and also to this temple idea that we are doing. And for that, it all began with these sketches because we were asked by some friends who were doing like kind of a neighborhood project on the other side of the river in Hamburg, where there was a church and they had like a big community which consists of Muslims and other religions. So their like neighborhood project was located in an old church and they didn't want to go there, so they needed like something new, a place with no threshold, a place which could be open for a lot of people. And that was before we formed the collective. But with some friends together, we started to develop ideas of this, now we call it temple. And in the end, what came out was a thing called the Envilago, which is a structured, like a created word coming from a little bit from the Esperanto language, where Vilago is the village, and Envilago is like in the village, because it was like a small village that we built there. It was this modular structure made out of wood, which was completely deconstructible, so it could be demounted and remounted again. And it had like in the inside, it had like this curtains of plastic and textile, and we did a lot of different things. This was a theater play. We had talks in there. Like the first time it was curated by the people who asked us to do it. This is like a super nice night shot. Yeah, we had some video screenings in there, and from that on, that was 2018. It was put somewhere. We deconstructed it, and over the winter we asked around like if people wanted to do stuff with this structure. And that was the time when Loom was formed, because it was like the beginning of 2019. We had like this capital in form of this material of the pavilion, and we put it at different places. Like maybe here it was the German-wide Right for the City forum. So regarding like Lefebvre's theories that there is like a right to the city, there's a political leftist group, and our pavilion was one of the main, like was in the inner courtyard, the place where they met, where we also had our gatherings. We met there also. There were like a lot of talks and things, and we sold stuff. And this is one picture which for us is really important, because besides all of this academical work, we also are very ritualistic in a way that we like to make it always, Alberto always calls it, that we're occupying like these places also in that time. So we're not just being there and doing academical stuff. We also try to invite people from around the around the neighborhood, and in this case it's like kind of a cultural space where a lot of people are having their studios, and they were also always invited. Then again, we deconstructed everything and we built it up again in somewhere in the middle of Hamburg, and that took us a lot of energy. That's why I think we will not do it so much again this year, not only because of the corona, but also because it was just all of this constructing and deconstructing is a massive structure. So it's sometimes 1 week of work, and then we come to the main part, what we did with it. With this structure, and for that we have like a small portfolio that I just will go through with you. We had the chance to put it up a little bit in the peripheral side of Hamburg. It was in an old power plant, which is also a cultural space in a way, and we put it there and had like kind of a 10-day festival. It was 10 days open. And this was some pictures from the opening, and we had always some music there and people. It was super hot. That was really brilliant. It was around 30 degrees all the time, so it was a really summer festival. And there again, this is a talk about fair trade. We had a film screening on the right. We had concerts and DJ sets that were mixed into each other. We had workshops with friends who were doing installations regarding urban space. We did like kind of an exhibition about ourselves, which we put up there. We had some school kids there who were presenting their musical. We did a mapping about cultural spaces, like just to show you the variety of things that we like to do. And we like to tinker around, as you see, like we built swings and mats, and we like to have fun, and yeah, in the end we don't leave no trace. That's like the most important things for us. And all of that work led to maybe where are we right now? And that would be this beautiful place called the Werkstatt, the workshop. It's located in an old parking garage, and this is also where the talk to the temple and also the next one that will be shown, and all the videos that we did there. You can see some music videos also from a concert that we did inside there. It's like kind of an old car workshop, and the first project we did there were some furniture for the urban space that we were asked to build. So it was kind of a car workshop for a short time. But after that, we only used it together to do presentations and workshops with people of the inner city. This is like a picture from the press conference when the whole house got sold, but this is another story. I just want to zap you through the variety of things. We had like a hip hop, what is this? I forgot, Alberto? Trap. It's a trap party. Then here again, like a talk mixed together with a concert where we had the band from Switzerland, and we always try to experiment with the formats to mix stuff up to get different kinds of people in one space. And this is like one of the final situations. This is how the workshop is looking right now. We have an installation since the house in which the workshop has been sold. So this is the situation right now. We're doing talks there a lot now. And we also love to meet there and work inside there. And I think like to just like collect it together, like most of our work is relating always to the places that we are right now, and we try to bring a lot from us, or we always brought a lot and built a lot, and it was always this space creating followed by a space holding and activating. That's why one of the slogans that we created in the beginning was that we activate spaces that maybe have not been activated before. Yeah, so much from my side. Are there any questions? Okay. Then.
Well, maybe just a curious question. Yeah, curiosity question. Do you have an idea where are you going to go next? Or is there a possibility of some proposal? Like an old building or something?
The Werkstatt itself we are talking with the company who's owning it about like if it would be possible to join up, but we have not like really talked about it. But regarding the new wave of maybe fear of social gatherings, I think we have to shift our practice a lot. And I also believe that we have to shift it way more into the digital space. And that's why we're also experimenting with this format with all of you guys. Since all our practice is based on money from cultural funds and big events that are happening, like festivals and stuff like this. And most of these things need a lot of planning security that is not, just cannot be given, is not given right now. That's why we are right now a little bit hanging in the air.
Okay.
But as I said, like our YouTube channel is
for the conversation later. I think I think the concept was sort of like to have the presentations and then afterwards to get into discussion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to our next presentation, no?
No, I think wasn't Alberto saying something about
yeah, well, I just then I will share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Clean your screen, Alberto.
No, I know.
I was about to say the same thing. Clean your desktop.
Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, hi everyone. And just quickly, we didn't mention that one of our final projects, we got connected with an artist from Italy, and he lives in, no, he's from Canada, but he lives in Italy. He's called Michael Dudek, and he is doing a lot of research in how religion works in society. So he's also an artist slash cultural engineer, and he has many layers to his work. No, he is really academical, but he can get really spiritual about stuff. And when we started to work with him, we just noticed that we had so many, like when you meet a person in a party and you have like, you like the same music, you go to the same places somehow. And so many ideas just start to click and start to like play with each other. So that was really nice for us, because we also tend to like this, have this kind of academical approach to stuff, practical about building and designing, but we're also trying to incorporate a layer of spirituality into stuff, not because we think that we need to go deeper into stuff, but only because we think maybe it's just a holistical approach towards things, you know? So it's not about separating into categories, but to kind of like taking all components and talking about them. So like Marcelo says, like we're looking to do this like translation from what our work is, and it's based on the real world, to kind of move it into a digital real, to a digital space, no? So this is why the digital temple kind of comes, and this is where it comes from. And yeah, and so after working with Michael Dudek, we developed, between all, we just bouncing the ball a little bit, we developed this idea about what a temple is, and we developed a concept between us, and we said that a temple has this 3 elements to it. And one side we have what is time and space. It's a window, it's a frame where people go, and this is the window, the frame where everything takes place. No, then we have a second a layer to it, that is where people pray. People go to pray to a temple, and by this we don't want to say that we go and we pray to God, no. But this is what we want to say, that there is a communication happening between the people that is going into the space, and also between themselves, and if they want to call it, between another kind of force, no. So it's not that it doesn't have this like I pray to God, but it's more like this communication aspect about stuff, that it goes personal, intrapersonal, collectively, and also maybe beyond a network and a collective. And then we have the aspect of rituals that happen in a temple, that is sacrifice. And what we have conceptualized until now is that people, when they come into this temple, they bring an idea, they bring a thought, or they bring you know, something that they saw somewhere, and they just, this is like a way they bring it into the group, and it's like a more like a symbolical sacrifice. So you bring this idea, and here, and you know, in this kind of spaces where we sacrifice it, no? And so this is like the 3 parameters we do the framework of the temple, and it actually works really good because it simplifies the whole process of why are we doing something, no? Instead of, and that gives us the opportunity to not call this just like a symposium or a debate or something else, no? That's why it's a temple, because we frame it like this. And we're not trying to say that this is a religion, but we use the same framework to come to different conclusions, yeah. And then we have like this, how we imagine it kind of working, you know. We have the individual level where persons are all around the world, with their own thoughts and ideas, and we start to connect, you know, like different networks. We have, like, for example, we have here the network of me, Marcelo, and Lucas. That would be Loom, and then we have other networks, like maybe the Amsterdam one or the Panosmico. So that's like another layer. And then when this network comes into one space, that would be the temple, we have this co-cognitive level, that is where kind of a collective consciousness, no? And again, I don't think this has like a super spiritual layer to it. It's just like, it's technical at the end of the day, you know, what is happening here. This is not a spiritual encounter, if you want to say so. We're just having like it's a consciousness that is happening in real time, no? And I think the whole thing about the digital temple can be really good analyzed through all these kind of tools that we're trying to build. And this is what we have until now, and we're willing to like open the discussion to everyone, and to if someone has ideas about how they think this could work or not work, because we also think that this kind of like stepping into these territories about what is religion and how is spirituality and how does this work on societies can be really delicate for everyone, because we're going into the territories of what each person believes, no? So it can be in a way kind of dangerous to play with this kind of concepts, but we are intending to construct maybe a kind of society of future, you know? So at the end, we're gonna take it slowly, and we hope that people come along and we can kind of build this this concept or this reality or virtual reality, whatever you call it. So that's what we have until now, and so you can have more like an idea, how is it that we want things to happen, and how is the framework working and stuff like that. Yeah, that would be everything for on my side. Yeah, thank you. I don't know, should I give the screen then to
give the screen to?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the screen.
Do you have it?
Oh, yeah, I will wait. How do I do this?
I always have to do it for him because he's incapable of using a computer.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So just to introduce myself quickly, I am Mariana. I'm from Mexico City, but I've been living here in Amsterdam for almost 6 years, kind of coming and going. I'm an interior designer, but I did a master's in narrative environments. Yeah, which means how space can reflect meaning and stories. And what I'm mostly interested in is the interactions between people and the exchanges between people to create new narratives through public space. So when all of these crises, um, when all of these crises started to sort of gain importance, I am actually right now left without sort of a place for action, right? I mean, we were talking now about, of course, the digital realm, but is that actually the new public space? And what I want to talk about in my presentation is all the concepts that I think public space has, and the ones that I work with, sort of, from which ideas all the projects that I do are deriving from, and then a much more sort of open question to debate. Okay, where can we find these new spaces, and what are these new spaces in between us, digitally but also physically? So yeah, I right now I work with a collective also as a freelancer, but I work with a collective that is working on public space to develop tools for meeting and exchange. And we mostly work in intercultural neighborhoods or with communities that are very different, so that come from different backgrounds, let's say, in trying to interact together. And then, yeah. So yeah, we are based on this principle that, yeah, public space is social. No, it's purely actually social. It's a place where we all can see each other and recognize each other, and therefore there is always an opportunity, let's say, to have meeting space. This is a project that we did in Amsterdam, and it's called the Klerekas, and it's under this highway. This is a neighborhood where, like, a few years ago, it was named the most criminal neighborhood in Amsterdam. And there are also a lot of problems with isolation. Actually, before COVID, that was already a problem in the city, right? I mean, coming from Mexico City, probably it's a different thing because people are much more used to having like a closed social network with family. But here, for example, elder people are super lonely. So we built this place, which is this glass house under the tunnel, and we experimented uh, with the different types of uses and which one it was going to be. Yeah, it was more about how people reacted, no, in this way of like creating situations to see how people react. So this became like a second-hand shop where every day a week there's a different owner for this shop, and then it became almost like inherently a space for meeting for elder people, which was actually a very nice outcome because then they can create this social network. Another concept that yeah, I really like about public space is that it is part of our identity, right? I mean, it is part of what we consider each other to be, and how we relate to that public space will always um, yeah, become part of our own narrative and how we relate to each other. So yeah, this is also a project that we are doing with some friends that are doing mobile radio, in trying to find out, for example, the identity of food stalls in Mexico City, and how people relate to those spaces in their daily lives. So well, yeah, this is also something that, because of right now, we cannot be around each other eating some tacos like we would want to. Also, public space is symbolic, no? I mean, it is also really charged with political stance or spaces that make us sort of as citizens feel more empowered. And this is a sculpture that we did here in Amsterdam as a way of overlooking to a new development that was sort of coming to this neighborhood that we work in, and it was questioning this fact of, okay, we are in a public space, but we all help to do this public space together, and then how are we going to look into the future of this neighborhood? So therefore, a whole situation was created around, debating about how this neighbor is going to change and what is our way of collaborating towards making it, a place where everybody can have a say in it. And I think, right now we have to also think about how are those developments going to happen now that we have basically no access to public space. Another concept is that, public space is empathic, no? So as what I was saying before, public spaces are created for also or are whole placeholders for people to see each other and create empathy between each other. This is a project that I was doing in Mexico City with the Laboratorio para la Ciudad, the city laboratory. Actually, I was consultation phase. This is a neighborhood that really didn't have any spaces for children to play in, because it's this whole market district, which is called Tepito, and actually children have no space basically in this whole equation, because everything's taken up by commerce and a lot of violence. So there was an open call for different designers to create like a structure for these kids to play. And I think that just creates the space for empathizing with this group of people in towards how they use the city. And then, of course, all of these concepts, I'm just using them to have sort of a reflection of what I think is important about public space. But of course, right now, this public space has really been taken away from us. This I was reading in a publication that came up this morning. And then, of course, we are not used to being isolated all the time. And if we are really losing one of our sort of biggest ways of interacting and of creating empathy and creating solidarity, then what are these common spaces right now? No. So I want to actually make a series of questions, because I actually don't know the answer to this. So I want to take this opportunity to really discuss about it. No, what are the COVID common spaces? Is that actually only being reduced to online interaction? No, online interaction can really create a space for debate and for dialogue, but somehow you are choosing to talk to someone. No, it's not, let's say, public space. The way that people interact become much more spontaneous. There is also there a question of privilege, then who can have access to these new online common spaces, or even in the house as a new private space or private sort of, and when you're connected online, private public common ground. So yeah, we can think about that. And then yeah, what does public space mean when everybody is locked down? No, like we see that there's all these animals that usually they are not going out so much because of human activity. They're regaining the public space. And so is this also a time to really look a little bit into our practice in architecture or even in public space, making to think about how we are going to deal about that in the future. No, we realize how also invasive we are in terms of the cities we live in, and then how we can, yeah, how can we rethink these spaces after this crisis. And then yeah, how can we create these common spaces for exchange in times of spatial isolation? And again, the question, no, sorry, I'm a bit the advocate of the devil to I have to say I'm a bit scared of thinking that our interactions should be reduced to a screen. So what are those spaces? No, what are those opportunities? Is it our window? Is it our block? Is it our supermarket? Is it our street that goes to the supermarket? Is it on a bike? Or just thinking about that. And then what actually is our role, no, as spatial designers? And I think you guys already thought about the solution, but I would really want to take this session to, yeah, to discuss about that. So basically this is it.
Mm-hmm.
I see some questions.
Maybe I start, or who was the first one? I didn't saw a hand. I like, yeah, because we had a discussion about public space after the temple talk that we have online. We talked about the in Seek Common Ground. I don't know if you have watched it, together with an artist and a priest, about spaces, and in that way also temples. And in the end, there was one of the, I don't know, PR people from an art collective we're working with, and she was asking the question, like, what in the end is public in the space? If you do art in the public space, how public is that space? And I think from an urban point of view, or maybe the architectural point, no, maybe the social urban point of view, right now we don't really have public spaces, since all of them, at least in Germany, in the wealthy cities like Hamburg and Berlin, those places are really rare, where you have like a public accessible space with no consuming or anything. We find this out. There's like a big study about who is owning the city, and we find out that we don't have the right to demonstrate on most of the spaces that we have here in Hamburg. We have only like 2 places left in the whole city, the Heiligen Geistfeld and the place in front of the town hall, where we can legally demonstrate on an open space, because the rest is owned by a lot of different actors.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, in that sense we can also think about it in this online space, right? As much as public space is regulated, I think that also online public space, or online space, which is actually not public at all, because you have to pay for your space, you have to download certain mechanisms, no? In that sense, like, my concern much more, yeah, I mean, of course there's a whole debate about public space and who owns it and who can have the right to it, and who can transform it. I mean, if you see the difference between even the usage of public space between Amsterdam and Mexico City. No, these are two cities that I live. It's a completely different story, right? I mean, there's much more informality. There's much more appropriation somehow in Mexico City, but that's not because, yeah, maybe it's because of the social culture, but I think it's also because of the lack of regulations. Whereas and therefore might become more dangerous, or it might become less clean, or it might become less ordered, but somehow yeah, the routine of life becomes much, it can get expressed much more, no? And whereas here, actually, you are right, no public space is actually owned by the public. Let's say it's owned by the city, and it's owned by even semi-privatized sometimes, no? But I think in that sense, for example, right now when we are living this crisis, yeah, I think it's interesting to distinguish all of these um, implications that public space has, and also the new ones that we are creating right now. No?
Yeah, I guess that the question right now is not so much about the debate in real life, what is public space, no? Because that's getting old at the end of the day. You know, we can argue if a private owner has a cafeteria, but I think that the discussion right now kind of has to go far away from that, because right now the situation is like, where do we have this space for empathy, like you say? Where do we have this space to protest against the government? Where do we have to? That was like also some of the questions of the last topic. Mm-hmm. And I think like, yeah, like right now the questions are, where do we have that right now? Where how can we achieve that? And for me, it's also really interesting to see, yeah, what is happening with all that? What can we do?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, this like shift that we had at the moment, like that we like first talked about, like, and how far public space is restricted through ownership, and also online space is restricted. And then on the other hand, that we talked about like kind of like what qualities does public space has, like is it like the empathy we feel that activate this place and make them special, or what is it? And then like also like, I mean, we have these restrictions in online spaces too, because not only because of that you have to download it or that it's a sense of privilege, but the interface is already designed in some sort of way. It's already restricting you and your possibilities in how to design the spaces and to make it your own and to get this feeling of like a common space. And I mean, some people try to like do it like with graphic design and to find like kind of like to aesthetics some kind of solutions to it, but even like in the projects we did in public space, it was not that much about aesthetics in terms of like the design of like it's not that much about the design of what we're doing. It's more about like how to create the spaces where we create these possibilities of activating the spaces. And I think this is a big issue in this online spaces, to create the same possibilities that you might have in a space, in a public space, like in a real public space, and like the physical space that you have around you. And I don't see any way to get around it in this online spaces.
That's where I was sort of expressing this concern on the lack of sort of situation, or the lack of organic situations that you can have in online space, no? Why? Because as you say, everything's already designed. In a way, public space is also designed. Everything is designed around us anyways. But the interactions that we have in public space are probably much less designed, right? You could design it. I mean, I am also um, working with social designers who think about what is going to happen if a person comes to this place and then uh, enters in conversation with this other person, and then is offered this and is offered that. Always somehow we are, as humans or as designers, trying to design these experiences. Um, but I kind of feel that there's this, and at least for me, what is special about the tangible public space is this possibility of error, or this possibility um, of, 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 of things not going as they are supposed to be going, let's say, right? That you suddenly meet with someone that you're not expected to meet, or then you see someone that, or doing something that is not supposed to be there. And then how is that going to be part of our lives? And is this whole COVID situation right now going to last the next 3 months, or is it going to be something that will just stay with us, and we are going to start interacting differently? Mm. And more questions than facts.
At the end, like you say, is like these possibilities. I think you and Lucas made kind of the same sentence. Like in real public space, we have these possibilities. Like we don't know what can happen. We can, like you say, we can meet someone. We can take our guitar. We just can do stuff because we have the liberty to choose. And that the question would be, how can we have that same possibilities and online? Are they even possible? As I heard, by the end of your presentation, you kind of say that you don't have a good perception of this. You say you have more like a pessimistic approach. I kind of heard, and like you prefer more the real meeting than online spaces, no?
I don't think, I mean, it's not a pessimistic approach, but it's more of a question on, are we can this new sort of common ground, or can this new public space replace the past one? And are there more possibilities, or which are the other spaces that are in between us, no, beyond the online realm? Is it our window? Is it our street? Is it our way to the supermarket? Is it the supermarket? No, beyond that, as a reflection. I'm not saying I'm pessimistic. I'm just saying that there are many qualities from public space that wouldn't, I don't think could be replicated or achieved in the online space.
Yeah, can I add to that? Yeah. No, this is very interesting. I think in a way, digital platforms are much more staged, no, and structured in either by us or by the way it's designed and programmed, or by the filtering algorithms or whatever. So the sense, like the real sense of improvising or going with the flow, is much more limited. And the real possibility of chance and encountering random situations, and like a real feeling of uncertainty, no, that real physical public spaces gives us, it's I don't see exactly how we can translate that into the digital public space. But it's a very, I really like this question, like to have the opportunity to think about it, like, this notion of uncertainty, how important it is to actually have this feeling of being so natural in like real physical public spaces, no? So I don't have any answers to that, but
I think Rosa wanted to say something also. Rosa?
Hi, my name is Mariana, by the way.
Ah.
Manuel La Rosa is just his last name, but that's fine.
Sorry.
I'll respond to Rosa.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I mean, this all like definition of what's space, what's private, and what's public, it kind of like makes me think of what one of the infrastructures that we are obsessed right now. It's the sewage system. In a way, the sewage system connects, in a way, what's public and what's private in a very distinctive way, you know, kind of everything that it's really, really intimate and private goes there at the public space and then spreads out in ways that are, yes, disgusting, but at the same time magical, because they construct, in a way, new realities and new ecologies and life, you know, kind of, I'm talking about bacteria decomposing and then vegetables growing, you know, in that field that dirty water was spread. So I was thinking, in a way, how can private space affect public sphere in a way? So in our own kind of little bubbles and systems, we have many ways to connect with the exterior and many ways to kind of like affect that idea of that everything is set and everything is designed. And you know, design is not, it's not a closed system. I think it's rather open if we kind of like play a little bit with the materials that we have and the ability to interpret how those systems work. So in a way, I was thinking that maybe the question here is not about physicality or even the digital realm, but how are we interpreting everything that it's in our hand to kind of work with. I don't know, I always imagine, like, what if, for example, step by step, little by little, we come together into an agreement through a digital platform that we're gonna flush the toilet at the same time, you know, every Monday. What will happen to our daily quotidian sewage system life if we do that like regularly, and we kind of like construct a rhythm of it, or maybe we can affect the exterior at some point, in some way, or if we can, I don't know, like maybe convince 1 million people to do it at the same time. Then, you know, it's kind of like this thing with Japanese people like jumping at the same time, that they can, you know, produce a small earthquake. In a way, is that it's just, I don't know, it's so, for me, the limit between public and private, it's so, you know, stupid, because it's just kind of like it's in our heads, it's not really there happening. Also, I wanted to share a thought about other possibilities of spaces, which I think they have the potential to connect us in different ways. For example, dreaming. You know, imagine, and I'll leave that as, you know, there, because I don't have much of an explanation to give there. But I think dreaming, it's also a space that we don't use much, and it could be, it could be a really good starting point to realize that we have more spaces than just these two, you know, dynamics of the public and the private and the physical and the digital.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Mariana. I think maybe this is a good point, like when we talk about like how individual and public spaces become kind of blurred. I think that's also interesting, because it's like kind of like asking these questions of how spaces are structured, also hierarchized in some sort of way, organized. And yesterday, Alberto, Marcelo, and me, we were sitting there, and we were thinking about this digital temple and the whole concept behind it, and what also what organizational structure it should have, what hierarchical structure it should have. We were talking about how in different religions a hierarchical order was created, and we were kind of like agreeing that, I mean, this hierarchical orders in many religions like give order to like a society that kind of like has to be put in line. And when we're dealing in this digital temple with like organizational forms, and also as a collective, obviously we're dealing with organizational forms. We were thinking about like playing with like these different roles of like that maybe the moderator would be the priest, but then we said, okay, but it wouldn't be appropriate to call him the priest because this would like mean he would be like a higher being. It would be somehow like bigger than anybody else in this meeting. And we were also talking about spirituality and because it's also making a lot of people afraid that we're building a temple, that we're talking about the temple, because religion and temples are so much related, like at least in the mindset of a lot of people, to like certain behavior that is oppressing others, or it's an act of separating what you created from anything else. And in the sense how we like thought about spirituality also in this talks with Michael Dudek, was that spirituality is kind of like created in this act of collectivist activation. So also Zizek was kind of like this philosopher who's like at the moment really a prominent left voice in the debates with COVID-19. Said in one interview in a video, he said that because we are spiritual, we are collectivist and we are collective, or we're acting in a collectivist sense in some sort of in this situation. And this was kind of like his hopeful message to like as a society overcome the situation and to kind of like enact a new sense of like communism. And I think like how we defined the spirituality for us was in some kind of sense was that I think it's really like an interesting example to go back to is one quote from this talk which we had, because this artist Michael Dudek was having his exhibition in a church, which is really close to this parking building, a parking site where also this Werkstatt is where we are. And in this talk, he said like our church wanted to play with all the other buildings, like the church was kind of like looking for playmates, but every building was like saying, no, I don't want to play. But then the Werkstatt, like the kind of like space in the most ugliest building, was kind of like saying, okay, come on, I'm going to play with you. So that was kind of like giving like the sense of like that when we as a collective create the spaces and activate the spaces, they kind of change meaning. And that's also why I'm like really confused or like desperate about like how online spaces can create this same meaning in some kind of way.
I would like to add to that, because another super nice quote, and which I also find very, very it was life-changing for me. Michael said it also very beautiful in that talk. You have to really watch it. It's one of the best talks I have seen. You can find it on our webpage. But like this guy, this artist, this queer sci-fi religion witch doctor person, I don't know. He threw everything around in my brain, and that was a very delightful experience. And one of his things that he said was that we as spiritual beings have the authority to create sacred space anywhere and any time. And I think that regarding the digital space is also that we can do it by giving it the meaning, because in a more philosophical sense, everything doesn't have meaning. The only meaning it has is the one that we give it to the things. And that's why also in this talk there will be said that in the Hebrew language, the word for holy, kadosh, means to set apart. So making something holy literally translates into, I'm just saying that this is special now. And in the beginning, where we were talking about the digital temple, this was one of the things that we said, that the narrative around it needs to be structured. Like as Mariana is trying to narrate the public space, maybe in the real world, we should also narrate the digital space. And this digital realm, I think, has a lot of things that you cannot do in the analog space, but we also need to find through tools and all, through behavior, we need to find the same qualities in it. People are able to talk and mostly have social interaction skills, which they maybe have not trained for the digital realm. So the first steps that we need to do, in my opinion, are the small steps in creating a behavior of how do we interact in these spaces. And I think that's why the temple is, again, very, very fitting. We have to do it through rituals, by a repeated behavior or in a repeated manner. So the things will go into the heads until these rituals will become something natural. Yeah. That was my point on this digital temple. What do you guys think? Like, this is maybe a question around, because we had like two or three reactions. We have a lot of very positive reactions out of the art scene, just on this idea of calling it a temple, because we never did it openly. But we also had two or three critiques in a way that this is somehow disturbing.
I mean, me personally, what I like about the temple is what you actually say, that we have the authority to just say, this is sacred, this is holy, you know, and this is important. So for me, that's like actually kind of cool, because instead of calling this a symposium or a talk or a conference, we're saying, no, I want to bring an idea that I consider important, that I consider sacred, that I consider holy. And you know, what the fuck, I say this, it's holy, you know? So we elevate the whole thing. And for me, it has nothing to do with this religious, maybe debate about what the church did or not. It's just about me saying, this is holy, this is sacred, and this is what I want to share, you know, with a community, instead of a WhatsApp group where you just share memes. So that's what I think it's important. Now we give this meaning to things, and it just elevates the whole discussion, in my point of view. So yeah, I mean, I'm also part of the digital temple crew, but that, yeah, I like it.
I think I also like it, to be honest, to redefine this concept. And at the beginning, I was not sure what you guys meant when Kone invited me to these digital temple sessions. I was like, what does that mean? So, but yeah, I really like what Marcelo and Conejo just said, and it just brings to my mind how also often in Amsterdam, old temples or churches, they're used to really, like, in completely different ways. Like, they do raves there, they do beer festivals, or from cultural, they use it as cultural spaces, or so it's really nice, I think, that yeah, I don't know, to redefine something that it was so so how do you call it, like, put in a box, a concept that was so in a box for so many years, and by so many reasons, and by so many religions, no, or the notion of religion, that, yeah, why not? I'm pro using this word. Okay, that was
well, you also have to know that Ana Lucia is religious, no?
I mean, yeah, I will not call it religious, because I'm not yeah, I mean, I do share the Christian values, let's say, and I call myself a spiritual, but I'm not a religious person in the sense of dogmatic or, yeah, following some specific school of thought in that sense. But I do share those values, and I do also try to put them in practice. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about it. Sorry, I felt a bit shy about. Yeah.
I thought, bueno, what I like about this temple idea, I mean, I agree with the fact that if you, as a spiritual being, can sort of allow yourself to claim sort of a spiritual realm wherever and whenever. Yet, of course, there are many references to the word and to the to sort of like the the religious values themselves, right? I mean, it's not always a word that is being valued as homogeneous or horizontal, let's say. But I think beyond that, because the temple is actually more of a space, or it's more of like the place where certain connections are being made or being worshipped, let's say, or being more than worshipped, I think respected. And I think that's what I really like about it, that it's more about not the ideas or the interactions being, let per se, religious or holy, but much more of respected and also creating this community, right? I mean, churches or temples or any other religious like places where people concentrate are actually a great way of creating communities. So why not have them right now, where we actually need to reach out to rethink about our values and rethink about how we interact with each other. So yeah, I like it in that sense.
Yeah. I think what I also want to say is why I like it is because it's kind of like an analytical tool to look at the phenomena that are taking place. And we could also like call it sewage system, and then we would have like a really specific view at like all the phenomena that are taking place, and it would also work. But it also works like I'm working at the moment. Next week I'm going to present it. I'm working on this question of like purity and cleanness in relation to COVID-19 and morality as well. And Panosmiko once sent me this really interesting book, which was written in the 60s, Purity and Danger, by Douglas. And it's really interesting to go like in this history of like religion, but also like kind of, I don't know how to call it, like in the book, it's written in the 60s, so primitive cultures, I think that's not the term you use today, but at least in this book it was the term they used. And they were speaking also about like this cleanness, like this rituals of cleaning your body, kind of like before you could like enter a sacred space. And this speaks a lot of like power relations and how kind of like specifically in times where the state and religion was really bounded like to each other like a lot, was like a tool to enact like certain measurements on society. And this question of purity and authority and is really interesting to analyze also in relation to COVID-19 and the measurements that are like working at the moment and just saying this, I think it helps to have like this to set on this classes of like looking to the temple and then look at phenomena that are taking place right now. So that is like for me also a value of like calling it a temple.
And just to connect really quickly with the topic of Mariana, is that a temple is a public space, you know. So but it has a spiritual connotation to it. And so for us, it's also like, is this also a public space right now? And how is it working? Are we having the same possibilities that we could have in a plaza? Are we having more? Also, you know, so that's also the questions that Mariana maybe posed is also to say, we also have some other, there's also some advantages to this, because I mean, otherwise I wouldn't connect with people in Amsterdam or people in Mexico City, because I wouldn't do it, you know. I would rather go to the plaza. So at the end, everything is how you say in Spanish, arma de doble filo, you know, like it just cuts both ways. And for me, it has been super interesting to just, because I was super against all digital encounters, you know, like I was super like against it. Like friends of mine knew before, back in the days, I didn't even have Facebook. I was against it. And I don't know, like social media and digital stuff has like really grown on me, and to the point like right now I really enjoy having my daily meetings with the Loom people and just talk about stuff and, you know, interact and develop. And I think it's like, yeah, I cannot see their whole expressions when they move, and maybe this particular things that are super important, but there's like other possibilities that are super nice, you know. So my opinion about the whole situation is that there is really good possibilities, and I'm super kind of excited of what can happen in the future, because I do see like openings, and yeah, I kind of like this situation in some way. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to kind of connect that to what Mariana was saying before about this kind of finding these other spaces or these other rituals that connect us, not like like this idea she had about Twitch or dreams or whatever other things that can connect us sort of physically. In a way, sort of, if you have this spiritual space around you, there is always also rituals or things that connect people that belong or that can sort of like transit through these spaces, and that can connect them even outside of the outside of the space, let's say, or the public space or the temple or something, which is actually something done much more individually, but that, you know, collectively can create something. So I don't know, it would be interesting to try to incorporate these other sort of rituals that can in a more like maybe physical or act or ritualistic way, invite others to connect in different levels. No,
Mm-hmm.
that would be nice.
Yeah, I want to add two things to that. One has to do with, first, the idea that the internet, when it was born, it was thought of as a place of exchange of stuff and perceptions of yourself and the world surrounding that maybe you couldn't execute in the physical realm. And I think that was the whole idea behind the avatars and being able to develop like a character that wasn't yourself in terms of physical perception, but it was in terms of, I don't know, how you felt or what you wanted to show to the other people. And I think in that sense, right now, for example, for us, it's much easier to execute all these quotations and maybe share info that is not that easy to show, because maybe you are in a physical place and you can't be looking at two screens at the same time and like listening but reading. And I think that is like the cyborg part of this, that is like very productive, because we can like be executing different activities at the same time that can go in the same sense. So we are like, maybe right now we are like 10 people, but we can be doing 20 different things at the same time, because I don't know, we can fragment our attention. But in that same sense goes the second thing that interests me about this, is that maybe this is not a public place in the sense that you can reach it without having any connection with any of the people that is making this connection available. But at the same time, it's like a public space for the same interest, digitally speaking. So maybe people who are looking for people that is talking about the sewage could find this conversation by getting a tag or something. But at the same time, that is like a weapon. And that is something that we talked about a lot the last meeting. And I think we kind of lost it, but it was this idea that through this we can share some thoughts about maybe how it feels to be a prisoner, or being in a jail cage, or feeling like you are being oppressed in some way, and at the same time having common actions in different geographies against the same kind of shit. And I think that is like a great potential, because maybe before it was easier to track people going to a protest because you know who they are and how they look and where do they depart from. But right now, the potential of the virtual public space is that you can have millions of people doing the same stuff at the same time. Like the world meditation that was done 2 days ago, which was like the idea that more than 1 million people were meditating at the same time and looking at the same energy flux, yeah, and attention. So those kinds of things, I think that maybe this is not the same kind of public space which you can go into by walking, but you can go into by looking for it and through interest. So it's absolutely designed, but it's designed more conceptually than physically, and that I don't know what kind of consequences can have, but it certainly is a better use of the networks, I think, than what Alberto was saying, that a WhatsApp group, it's already a habit to use it as a place to share shit, like junk food or junk thought, you know? So the idea that the digital temple is also a place where you present with ideas or with energy fluxes that you want to share that can have physical effects or only like conceptual effects. I think there's like a very thin frontier between them. It's very important because if you are only getting the feed from your social media, which is like what everybody just throws with no thought, then that's the only thing that is being shared. And maybe spaces like this can push you to share different stuff that will go to other directions.
Yeah, I super like the picture that you draw with the junk food, and when you watch our movies, we also added a disclaimer where we talked about how we see the internet right now and how we want to add to it, and this whole kind of content that we create right now, we also want to rethink it. But I think in a way what you said is very interesting, that this space could be like having a different quality without being too arrogant, but in the priest in the talk, which was also around the temple, he said one of the most important things. He's a Christian priest, so he's doing his prayers every week, twice or three times, and he said like the most important thing for a good experience in a church is involvement. So if you don't feel involved, then you don't get anything out of it. And I think this is the biggest problem with society that is trained by internet, is that you're getting thrown at with all what you want. You can go onto Netflix and watch the rest of your life and die without never being bored, maybe, I don't know. But the possibility that you can curate and also give something back is not so in the head of most people. Most of the stories and memes I see is right about that people, I don't know, they waste their time right now. And this thing that we're doing, in my opinion, I feel kind of, for me, I feel sophisticated right now. We are having like very, very, very interesting and meaningful talk, and that is for me the way of giving it importance. I'm sitting here right now, I could do a lot of different things, but I'm trying to share my my time with some people that really want to be involved. And I think this is, in comparison to all of the junk food, one of the things that we are without ever having it planned, is just working quite well. And I have to say a big thanks to also the people who are the second time here. You are really making the space also not just Alberto, Lucas, and me talking to each other. And I think this could be like one of the things that we also just keep on track, that this is a quality that just evolved by, I think, out of the necessity of the people that take part in these meetings. Hi, Andreas. Nice to see you.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. Sorry for my delay.
Hi. I just want to say something quickly. Something that also Manolo said. And yeah, what is happening right now? Like, so I had this question to myself when I was thinking the digital temple, because are we also being a platform where we just yell information to the system? You know, like just putting more shit on top of more shit. And that could be maybe a yes, no. But I think the important thing is that there is a space for people to listen and persons to talk and listen. There has to be a dialogue. In this way, you're not. I think if we have this dialogue, then the information is just not being shit on top of a pile of shit. It's being digested. It has a life to itself, and it goes back into the system. It has like a sustainability aspect to it. And I think spaces like this should be a bit more open, because you know, like just seeing information in your face and not able to discuss it and try to see if it's truth, post-truth, or whatever. I think it's kind of like just in your face and then it's gone. So these spaces where people really dialogue and put this information back into the system, I think it's going to be every day more important, because it's just too much. It's just too much information out there, you know? So yeah, I also think that there has to be kind of a different situation with information. Mm-hmm.
Just a quick add on that, because I think what you said is really interesting about also the worthfulness of information. And if we, in a sacred way, believe that the internet is kind of something really sacred, if we make it to that, it's this network that could or has the possibility to connect all human beings with access to it on the planet. So maybe we can also rethink, like when you build a house, you have to take care of your resources, and maybe if you upload something, it always in our mind is like, yeah, I mean, there's like enough storage for everything, so we just upload everything. Maybe we can also have maybe a more, how you say, sustainable approach on information, that not all information maybe has the quality to be uploaded. So because when you go on some Twitch channels, there is like every fucking stream where that dude or whoever is playing Counter-Strike against some people, and it's like you can just maybe be on that one channel for the rest of your life and always watch something. Maybe we could also try to put like a sign or a stamp on stuff that say, okay, this is maybe not this being in this chat room is more important than the uploading of it and somebody is watching 2 hours some people talk to each other.
Yeah, I agree, and that's also my approach in dealing with it. And I think it's all of our approach that we kind of like try to find like a deeper meaning in the situation. And I mean, like most of us were also like in their work or like in their studies mostly like in a kind of like critical position towards society, trying to like kind of like find a way of how to alter society and kind of like find a way to make it more collectivist in a sense. But I'm sometimes wondering about myself, like just when I look at myself in this situation, because most of my days consist of like researching, looking through articles, reading blogs on how to change society at this moment. It seems like for critical researchers, it's like this like one moment in time where there's a possibility where everything could change. And maybe like I'm sometimes wondering if it's a way of like me personally trying to deal with like a mentally really challenging situation, because it's challenging to not have physical encounters. It's challenging that now for like 6 weeks I didn't touch any person. And like I think it's really interesting maybe to bring in like a quote from Zizek at this point, because he was saying, what can we do to survive this mental pressure of living in a time of pandemics? My first rule here is, this is not the time to search for some spiritual authenticity, to confront the ultimate abyss of our beings without any shame. Assume all small rituals, formulas, quirks, etc. that stabilize your daily life. So I was reading this quote and I was thinking, are we like doing like the complete wrong thing to like kind of like try to find like this deeper meaning and this like kind of like complex situation, and to kind of like find like a spiritual authenticity in digital space that we usually create in physical space? I agree that we're doing the right thing and that it feels good to come together, but sometimes I kind of like think that it's maybe like just a mental excuse to not deal with other stuff that we come together like this. Like it's not an excuse, but it's just like, I don't know. I just want to get the thought out because it's also kind of like a way for me to deal mentally with the situation.
What I think is that, I mean, as everybody's trying to find sort of an alternative to what is going to happen after this. I mean, I think that's why it's also important to even have these spaces of reflection, and also coming from our own background, that is, or most of our own backgrounds, of all the people that are here. Now, we all work in the public realm, so I think it is quite important. And of course, if you wouldn't be thinking about what next, then what would you be thinking about? No?
Yeah.
I think it's very natural that we all we all think, okay, and after this, what will happen? What after it, during these moments, and then afterwards, what can we do to kind of reinvent things, or rethink? Maybe not reinvent, and also not putting a sort of like a pressure to do it tomorrow, but at least it's sort of like a start of something that can become something once a few months have passed.
Yeah.
That was one of my comments last time when I said, like, yeah, we have to take what is happening as a big thing, but it's just going to be another thing in life, you know. And next year is going to be another phenomena that impacts on us like a society, and we're going to have to change again. So I think we always have to have like this kind of like we have to be predisposed to adapt and to learn from our environment to like overcome. So yeah, right now it's COVID, but again, tomorrow can be another thing. And I think what's important is that we have this ability to change with the environment and be adaptable, because at least that's my philosophy, yeah, to change, and not, and in that sense, I wouldn't say that what is coming is bad and that this change is also bad, because I always try to say, like, I don't want to be that old dude that is criticizing the young skaters because they are too fast, So I always want to be like open to what is coming with a happy face, you could say, and say, yeah, this is a challenge, but there's possibilities and nothing but let's go forward. Yeah.
Was it an end sentence?
What?
Was it like, that was a good finish, I think, for the talk.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's still interesting to talk about, because I think what like got a bit lost was like this idea of like how to deal mentally with the situation.
He cannot stop.
We talked about an hour now. We still have some time.
Yeah, Lucas needs some support.
So we can do like after
because like when I talk with other people, it's like yeah, I have this hobby and I bake now and I do this and I do that, and I'm living the best life at the moment because I have all these things around. But like what critical researchers always have with them is to kind of like always seek to something that goes beyond. Mm-hmm. And I do think that even so, it helps us to deal with the situation, and that it's natural that we do that in some kind of sense. I don't think that everybody in society is kind of like looking for the bigger solutions or looking for like a way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make practical solidarity everyday life. This is the answer.
Can you explain that?
No, I just I don't know. For me, it's my solution to sorry, I just have a warning something.
Warning, a virus.
No, it's just my way, I don't know, to at least get in touch a bit with people, So it's our neighborhood and the solidarity network we starting to build up now, and to get in touch with the needs of the neighbors here. I'm living in a quite poor area of Hamburg, and I'm living here for 8 years or for 9, and I don't know, now it's an interesting, different feeling to this district and to the people here. And I don't know, this is the thing we do. We don't meet, at least. It's just more also virtual meeting, but there is like one social center here where 3 people are still working. And so it's like a point also to get there and to smoke a cigarette with them outside and have a small talk. So, but it's always something to do. So I'm living alone, but I feel sometimes alone, but this is like a solution to also to have, to refer to what Alberto said, to have a positive perspective on this transforming times also now. Because the question that was I talking today with a friend was, what kind of normality will come back? Because another friend said, I want that it will be again normal. And I said, okay, what kind of normality you want to have back? Because a lot of things are transforming now, and the economy is collapsing, and a lot of things are happening. But what kind of normality is coming? And I think this is the point we can work on, in my opinion, as subjects and as collectives.
Yeah, I also think that this possibility of the like we said it last time, the vacuum that needs to be filled. I think the normality that will come back will somehow be similar, but only at that point where nobody is taking that spaces back. And this is the possibility that we are trying to take here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
maybe we can ask Mariana, what do you think about the future of public space then? What do you think is going to happen?
No idea. I'm a bit, yeah, I mean, there's different scenarios. So one scenario is, again, no, like we don't know which normality we're going to go to, we're going to go back to. But I think the most likely scenario is that probably we will need to be much more connected and solidary with each other. And how can we enable public space to do that, actually, beyond being only meeting spaces or consumption spaces? But okay, how can they transform to enable us to live with each other in a way that we support each other much more, no? I mean, if the economy is collapsing, are we all going to go back to festivals and drinking in bars once this crisis is over, or no? Or are we going to all be needing for our neighbors to help us out with preparing food or making some cultural event? No, I think that, so there's that's like a one thing that I could think of, no, that maybe after this, because we will have a much more unstable sort of state economic or security network around us, we will have to look for our networks around us in our neighborhoods or in public space. And the other is, I think, like a scary one, or that the one that scares me, but maybe I'm the old person, like looking at the skaters, like you were saying. No, like the one that scares me is that that our digital public space has become so normalized that and then there's all these paranoias about people coming close to each other, that it becomes quite hard for people to interact in public space again, and that things are much more controlled, or and how we interact, or that people don't want to leave their houses anymore. I don't know. There's of course, in a way, also this kind of maybe unfundamented fear. But I would say that there's much more of a possibility to rethink more about what is public space giving to us, more than this place to connect, but also more as creating as networks for helping each other and for solidarity and for sharing, let's say. No, to create a bit more, much more of this safety networks that will, in the end, yeah, not disappear, but be weakened by what we are living right now. So maybe there is a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Alberto?
I mean, me personally, as I see the panorama, like we're gonna be like China, to be honest. Like I see the politicians taking more measurements every day. I see the private companies talking about more control. I hear people talking about certificates, chips. So I really see like life in real, life in real life. It's gonna be super controlled. It's gonna be more surveillance. It's gonna be more like also this concept we were talking last time about what does it mean to be to purify something, and like Panosmiko and Lucas were saying, to purify something is to bring in order, to bring in line, and like anything, it has to be, has to be kind of controlled if you don't want infection, contamination, badness to happen, you know? So I do see real life outside being super controlled. So that's why I do think that we have to kind of like look for other places how to connect. And for me also, that's why I see a lot of solutions in digital space, because as I see the city and the public space is going to be every time more controlled, every time more controlled. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. As we can also conclude with some comments by someone, and I mean, we also are 2 hours now into conversation. What do you think?
I liked it.
Me too.
Yeah. So shall we close it for the evening, or what do you think? Anyone a last comment?
Well, one last comment about the surveillance. We also need to, we need to have in mind that also internet is super surveilled. I mean, there's a lot of surveillance on the internet nowadays, even more than in public spaces, I will say. They know what we're talking about in WhatsApp, in Facebook, even here in Zoom. All the data is stored and it will be sold at some point. But yeah, I mean, maybe we can continue that discussion on the next session. I also wanted to take the opportunity to say that I really like this format of the session. I think it gives much more time to digest what the speaker is saying, and to, I don't know, I guess I like it more in general. And also I wanted to say that if next week, I think, well, Moritz would like to share something about a project, an art project he's working on that came up about, with the coronavirus situation. I don't know if you want to say a few words for next week.
Hi, yeah, I'm Moritz. I think maybe just a short comment on, I was trying more to digest a bit like the whole discussion now, and I'm also a bit slow sometimes to respond on things, or I need to kind of make my mind up. But what I really liked was about this public space and private space, public space discussion, or what does it mean now not to be able to go to a public space, a real public space, a physical space. I think for me it's interesting to see that this is also, since these public spaces are paused in a way, there's a lot of potential in exactly, also as Mariana said, and both Marianas, there's a lot of potential to come up with new ideas and to connect somehow, like what we are doing digitally with what we are doing in real life. So there is, from my point of view, there is even more potential now, to more imaginative potential, which is also maybe connecting to what Mariana said before about dreaming. Like there's, it's just like this paused situation where we can almost like make up our mind and come up with new concepts or new solutions then for the public space, or maybe how we can activate it then again, even in another way that we would never come up if the normal life would just like continue. In that sense, I also see it as a positive thing, not necessarily only a bad thing that this virus situation is happening now, or trying to adapt to it and come up with new narratives.
Maybe quickly, just the other Mariana just left the room, but I think now her idea comes kind of again into the conversation, because she said about the sewage, because she's doing research in sewage in Mexico. So if we abstract the problem, we're like, So what?
She's here, no?
She's here.
She's
still.
here.
We're here.
No, but the other Mariana.
Ah.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Who's the other Mariana?
The other Mariana, the one from Panosmico?
Yeah, she's here.
Maybe he doesn't see the actual picture.
Rosa. Hi, Rosa.
Sorry. But maybe if we abstract the problem right now, comes really in hand. Like we are in this isolation cube, you know, and the only way we have out if we're in jail is the sewage, you know. So it's like thinking about the problem is like, how are we gonna go out of this isolation where we do have a window, and we can maybe enter into these different realms, you know, the dreaming one, internet, I don't know, fucking meditation. And like Moritz said, it's like, yeah, maybe our main spot got canceled, but then we have to think what other spots do we have? And that can be anything, you know? Mm-hmm.
But sorry, I don't know what you discussed before, but do you really think you're in an isolation cube?
Not. Well, last time we talked a little bit about are we, and that was the question also. Some people feel like they are more trapped, I guess. And me personally, I feel super good because I enjoy to be alone. But I mean, at the end, the word is isolation, you know? I mean, that's the technicality. We are isolated. So if what everyone thinks about that and how they feel is maybe really subjective, but the reality is we are isolated, you know? Everyone is in quarantine. In like in their own space. There's no possibility for us to come together and discuss something right now, but like this or in a dream or I don't know. Or what do you think I don't know.
No, I don't know, I'm not sure about it. I think it's ambivalent. I also for me it's also very critical what is happening in different levels. I also see this mentioned possibilities on different scales, but I also see limits. And I don't know. For me, it's like kind of isolation, of course, and to come together in public or in a public form, for example, also in public space and create the public is difficult, but it happens. I don't know. I was today next to the Elbe, next to the river, with a friend, and okay, we're just two. We don't meet with four, of course not, because now you get like penalties here. Penalties? Yeah, you have to pay. Anyway, so, but I don't know. For me, it's difficult. If I hear it, sometimes it seems for me like there is no subjectivity. You're a prisoner, and there is no possibility to act like subjectively or like in interpersonal way with somebody. But it's not like this. If you go out, you see people. It's less people, of course, and people, like public life is limited, very strong, very deeply. But I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to compare myself with a prisoner who has a window to see something outside. But it's not the same for me. You know, that's why.
Me personally, I don't feel like that. But I think the situation can be analyzed through different perspectives. So one of them, of course, is hardcore isolation and like prisoner. Maybe another perspective is like you have the possibility to talk with yourself and, you know, like be free for, I don't know. So, but definitely one perspective is hard, and is like in Berlin, they have already fines, and they're like super expensive if they catch you for 2 or 3 persons, you know. So there is kind of a situation about not getting together, you know. I don't know how it's in Amsterdam or in other places. In Italy, it was also super hard. In Spain, also super hard. China, you know, like, oh my God.
Well, personally, I think that of course, it's, as Alberto put it, it was a little bit exaggerated, but sometimes you need to put yourself in very extreme situations, even if it's just, in your mind, to kind of set your imagination going. So I don't see anything wrong on exaggerating a little bit our current situations in the isolation, things that are now. For example, for me to be isolated, it's really difficult because our apartment has a lot of windows, and all of the exterior, it's always getting into our private space. So for me, whatever is going on outside, it mingles with my daily life. So but I mean, I don't know. I just think sometimes it's good for the imagination to put yourself in some extreme-minded situations, so you can kind of like try to understand and empathize with some very what can it be looked as an abstract concept, as a prisoner. I don't know. It's just, I think it's good for the reflection. Maybe, yeah, we're not saying that we're prisoners of coronavirus, because no, but we are in a way prisoners of kind of wanted to be alive. So no, because if not, like, we will like reveal ourselves and go crazy on the streets and try to contaminate ourselves, and it's not the case. It's the opposite. Anyway, I think it's a good exercise in terms of what can you get out of that.
Mm-hmm. And also to think about like what social encounters actually mean to us.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're not gonna run away through our sewages, but it's interesting to kind of have there present in your life that there are systems that interconnect us in so many different levels and ways. Of course, the internet is the obvious one, right? Because we can see each other's faces and hear us talk as the most like common way of communicating with each other. But we also communicate stuff and we share other stuff without like directly wanted to deliver a message. But we do share a lot of crap like all of the time, through the air and through water and through other that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, it was just an extreme I put as an image, the image of the prisoner. Of course, it's I don't want to misinterpret it, what Alberto said before, but it's like it's just an extreme that, as you said now, Mariana. Mariana was your name, right? That is maybe it's polarizing a bit to reflect also their own situation in a way. Mm-hmm. And also to say, because I'm sitting in Hamburg, I don't know where you're sitting. I know where Alberto and Lucas is sitting, and also somebody's here from Amsterdam. But of course, it's also quite, I don't know, it's also like a Western position we're speaking of, or a German position in a way. So this, I think, is also a quite interesting issue. From which position you're talking about, that you're in isolation, and what does it mean in China, or what does it mean in Latin America, or what does it mean here in Hamburg, and quite, we can even say high quality living standard. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's individually differently, but I mean in general, from the health system, from this point of view, for example, or from infrastructure, everything is working in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Anyone? I think we can close for tonight.
Yeah. So, and also next week we have a third guest then. So we have 3 presentations next week, because Andreas Manures, an artist from London who is at Goldsmith at the moment, he will do like a small studio visit in his flat and presenting the project he's currently working on. So he's working on a sculpture made out of soap. So that also fits kind of like my presentation on puberty. So this will also happen next week.
Cool. Okie dokie.
Nice.
Well, thank you for this talk.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, everyone.
You all.
Yeah, no, for me it's also like it's quite nice because I've been having these questions for a few weeks already, so it's always nice to put them into like a group and then let that kind of revolve around. So cool. Thanks for your thoughts.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hello.
Adios.
Wash your hands.
And your face.
Haut ihr alle ab oder was?
Ne, wir können noch bleiben.
Ah, nice. Zumindest auf dem halben Gibbet. Ey, Digi, wie geht's dir?
Gut, und dir?
Ja, erzähl mal, wie war's in Chile? Du hast viel mehr zu erzählen als ich. Ich wurde gekündigt, aber erzähl erst mal du.
Chile war ziemlich geil, so die erste Woche, aber dann ist es da halt auch angekommen.
Ah, okay. Und das hieß dann auch quasi Isolation und Quarantäne oder was? Oder?
Ja, es hat schon auf jeden Fall das hat den Alltag ziemlich stark beeinflusst auf eine Art und Weise. Also wir konnten halt am Ende schon noch abhängen und beieinander sein, aber letzten Endes war es halt richtig krass. Wir waren mit meiner Family unterwegs, mit 9 Leuten. Und plus dann meine Oma und mein Onkel waren wir dann auf 2 richtig winzigen, ja. Warum? Ah, okay. Ich muss kurz den Stream stoppen.
Okay.
Aber mein kleiner Bruder hat den Stream zugeguckt und du hast einen Joint geraucht und wenn das jemand sieht, dann...
Ach, war das der vorhin da war, oder was?
Nee, mein kleiner Bruder ist hier in Fahrdorf.
Ah, okay.
Ja,
okay.
du hast einen Joint geraucht gerade weil ich noch gestreamt habe ich nicht gewusst, dass man darauf achten muss.
Ach, da scheiße ich drauf. Sollen sie zugucken? Ich kann den hier...
Ja, aber ich ja nicht, weil dann unser Twitch-Account gesperrt wird. Wir streamen ja den Tempel jedes Mal online.
Ah.
Die haben so Richtlinien. Und ich habe jetzt gerade vergessen, den Stream auszuschalten. Weißt du?
Ah, okay.
Ja.
Ja, stimmt.
Aber warte mal, ich hole mal kurz das und dann drehe ich mir auch noch schnell ein. Sekunde.
Jo.
Ja, aber eigentlich war Chile halt eine ziemlich geile Zeit, weil es so fern von allem war, erstmal, aber echt die letzten 10 Tage waren hart, Bruder. Es waren einfach, wie gesagt, wir hatten die Wohnung von meiner Großmutter, das ist eine 3-Zimmer-Wohnung, aber eine Santiago 3-Zimmer-Wohnung, das heißt, die hat vielleicht insgesamt 40, 30 Quadratmeter gehabt, die ist super winzig. Und dann waren wir halt einfach 11 Leute auf diese kleine Wohnung und wir haben noch ein Apartment dazu gebucht von einer Freundin von ihr. Aber es gab nur den einen Raum, in dem wir essen konnten. Und ich habe quasi das Gegenteil von Isolation erlebt. Ich habe so richtig einfach für 10 Tage am Stück, jeden Tag mit 9, rein theoretisch, das sind ja keine fremden Menschen, das ist ja meine Familie, aber die sind meinem Alltag fremd. Das heißt, wir haben super unterschiedliche Themen und sowas alles.
Ja. Ach, krass.
Ja.
Konntet ihr reisen oder wolltet ihr gar nicht reisen?
Doch, das Ding ist, wir waren ja die Hochzeit war ja am Wasser.
Ach, ihr wart auf einer Hochzeit, das wusste ich nicht.
Genau, meine Cousine hat geheiratet und ist deswegen nach Chile geflogen und hat das alles organisiert und deswegen ist die ganze Familie auch für 3 Wochen halt hin. Wir waren eine Woche vor der Hochzeit da. Da haben wir dann halt in der Nähe des Hochzeitsgeländes, das ist halt an der Küste gewesen, also eigentlich bei Valparaiso ungefähr, ne? Also so einfach an die Küste ran. Algarrobo heißt es da, das ist so ein kleiner Ort. Und das heißt, das war super geil, das war die beste Hochzeit, auf der ich je war, Alter.
Geil.
Einfach, die Latinos wissen einfach, wie man feiert. Das war nicht so langweilig wie eine deutsche Hochzeit.
Ja, waren das überwiegend Chilenen da, ja?
Ja, klar, auf jeden Fall. Aber es waren auch auf jeden Fall so 20, 30 Leute aus Deutschland waren da. Locker.
Okay.
Family und Friends von den beiden halt. Und alle haben sich man hat erst gedacht, so keiner kommt aus Deutschland, aber die haben sich alle halt so gedacht, das ist ja eigentlich mal nice, ne? Das ist ja mal eine Möglichkeit nach Chile mit Einheimischen da. Der Cousin von meiner Cousine hat ja Tourist Management studiert, das heißt, der ist in Patagonien mit denen auch unterwegs gewesen noch. Dann sind die aber tatsächlich, als sie in Patagonien waren, schon, da kam dann die Ausgangssperre und alles Mögliche. Und dann sind die da tatsächlich noch im Hotel vom Militär getestet worden.
Oh,
Ja, das war richtig crazy.
okay.
Ja, da wär ich fast nur noch mitgefahren, aber in der Zeit war ich dann mit meinen Eltern in Südchile, so quasi auf der Mitte davon. Patagonien zählt ja heißt irgendwie nicht Südchile. Südchile heißt alles, was überhalb dieses Sumpfgebietes ist.
Ja.
Und da waren wir, das ist alles so Temperatur wie Deutschland, und da haben wir dann mit Freunden abgehangen, in deren Ferienhaus gewohnt von meinen Eltern, haben da halt einfach Freunde. Und dann sind wir aber da auch schon, wussten wir erstmal gar nicht, wie wir da wegkommen. Hä?
Also die chilenische Seite von Patagonien stelle ich mir auch richtig, richtig geil vor und wurde auch richtig viel gefeiert in Argentinien. Ich war nämlich auf der anderen Seite, auf der Höhe von Bariloche, El Bolsón, da war ich. Und ich finde Patagonien richtig geil. Also ich finde die Anden finde ich richtig faszinierend.
Warte mal kurz.
Ja.
Okay, mache ich sofort. Ja, mache ich gleich.
Ja, mach mal schön zu, bevor da so eine Corona-Fledermaus noch vorbeikommt.
Ja, hast du das gehört?
Du weißt ja, woher das kommt, oder?
Nee, ich hab folgende Überzeugung, woher das kommt.
Ja.
Es gab ein Video, das war auch nur ganz kurz online, das kann man nicht mehr finden, in dem erzählt wird, dass in Wuhan neben dem Fischmarkt auch eine von 3 Biohazard Level 4 Laboren war. Das sind einfach so, es gibt Labore, den Coronavirus, der jetzt rumläuft, den gibt es. Das ist nicht so, dass der jetzt entwickelt wurde oder so, der war halt im Umfeld. Und sobald irgendwie ein neuer Erreger gefunden wird, wird er meistens halt isoliert und dann in irgendwelchen Laboren getestet. Und das sind halt diese Biohazard Level 4 Labore. Und die gibt es auf jeder Welt, in jedem Land, auf der ganzen Welt. Und es gibt tatsächlich in China auch 3. Und eins davon war in Wuhan. Und das ist das, woran ich am allermeisten glaube.
Echt?
Dass das halt so 12 Monkeys mäßig aus einem Labor rausgekommen ist, weißt du?
Ja, das hat was von Verschwörungstheorie, aber...
Nee, ich meine letzten Endes, warum glaubst du den anderen? Also ich meine, jeder soll sich doch seinen eigenen Glauben zusammensetzen, oder?
Ja, wobei, also gut, in der Frage darf es ja am Ende nicht um Glauben gehen. Also wenn man das sozusagen reflektiert, ohne irgendwelche Schuldzuweisungen oder so, ne? Weil ich meine, ich sag mal, die andere Theorie verkürzt ist ja, dass es sozusagen auf einem Fischmarkt oder auf einem Markt sozusagen im Rahmen von so einer, keine Ahnung, Küche oder sowas war, einfach so ein Essenstand mit Fledermäusen und so, ne?
Ja, aber dir ist schon bewusst, dass von den 30 oder 36 ersten Fällen hatten nur 17 einen Kontakt zu diesem Markt.
Okay, ja gut, aber
das war nämlich immer nur die einzige der kleinste gemeinsame Nenner. Man hat aber bis heute noch nicht herausgefunden, ob wirklich es irgendwo eine Fledermaus gibt oder sonst etwas, die halt diesen Virus in sich trägt.
Echt? Das ist
ja, neu. Das wurde in diesem Artikel halt geschrieben.
Ja.
Also wie gesagt, ich find diese Theorie gerade super spannend, weil das einfach in das Bild reinpasst, dass China gerade einfach irgendwie, guck mal, die haben plötzlich haben die kaum neue Infizierungen von 0 auf 100 und sowas alles. Und es geht mir gar nicht um Verschwörungstheorie, das geht mir in erster Linie darum, dass die Art und Weise, wie die mit ihrer Politik umgehen und auch was bei denen, ja, es verschwinden Leute in China, das steht fest. Leute sterben, die wichtig sind für die Entwicklung bei dem Coronavirus, sind relativ früh im Vorfeld schon. Es gibt 2 so Leute, das wird auch im Internet relativ gehypt. Dieser eine Typ, der am Anfang übers Internet quasi vor dem Virus warnen wollte, schon im Dezember ungefähr. Und der ist dann halt an dem Virus gestorben. Und da gibt es halt, ich glaube einfach, dass diese ganze Geschichte, wie das Land sich verhält, von dem, was ich beobachte, super. Ja.
Naja, das weiß, also ich weiß nicht, ich weiß nicht, ob man daraus zu viele sozusagen Schlüsse ziehen kann aus dem, wie sie damit, also wie sie das jetzt angeblich auf Null gebracht haben. So, ne? Ich weiß nicht, ob man das Ende sozusagen in Anführungszeichen oder den Zwischenstand damit zu sehr in Verbindung bringen kann. Ich kann mir schon vorstellen, dass es durch Tiere beziehungsweise durch so eine Fledermaus passiert ist, denn das wäre nicht das erste Mal in der Historie von Epidemien oder Viren, gab es war ganz oft der Auslöser ein Tier, ob das Schweinegrippe war oder ob das irgendwelche Hühnerkrankheiten waren oder BSE oder whatever. Hörst du mich noch?
Ja, ich höre dich noch.
Sehr gut. Deswegen ist es, glaube ich, gar nicht so abwegig. Ich weiß natürlich jetzt überhaupt nicht, ob China zum Beispiel sowas verboten hat, also Fledermäuse zu kochen oder zum Verzehr weiter zuzulassen. Das weiß ich nicht, habe ich nicht nachgeforscht. Das ist mir,
Der Markt ist wieder eröffnet, in dem das angeblich ausgebrochen wurde.
Okay, der Markt ist geöffnet, die Frage ist nur, womit? Also ist die Praktik sozusagen des Fledermausessens oder Verarbeitens weiterhin erlaubt? Das wäre vielleicht eine interessante Frage, um den weiter nachzudenken. Ja. Das wäre natürlich logisch, wenn die Regierung sowas erstmal verbieten würde. Ja. Und das meinte ich vorhin, ich will es nicht bewerten, weil ich weiß auch, dass in anderen Ländern irgendwelche Meerschweinchen gegessen werden oder Hunde. Ja. Und es gibt, glaube ich, aus westlicher Perspektive, das ist ja auch unsere Perspektive sozusagen, die wir so ein bisschen haben, gibt es viele Sachen, die uns anekeln.
Entschuldigung, ja, das finde ich heute auch, dass dieser...
Ich kann das gar nicht adäquat bewerten, ob es gesund ist, Hunde zu essen oder Pferde oder Schweine oder was weiß ich. Weißt du, was ich meine? So,
ja, aber das ist ja der Punkt für mich, ist, dass an dieser ganzen Sache ist schon, dass ich einfach China schon immer suspekt fand. Mhm. Also die Art und Weise, wie die mit Menschenrechten und all ihren, so im Öffentlichen, die sind ein riesengroßer Player und kommen super krass in alle Länder rein durch ihre Investitionspolitik. Und dann gehen sie halt aber auch mit Menschenrechten halt entsprechend um und niemand von Politikern in Deutschland sagt was dagegen. Und das ist für mich ein riesengroßes Thema, dass man halt so an einem Tisch mit diesen Leuten immer wieder sitzt, weil die halt so riesengroß sind und dann aber nicht so richtig bewertet. Also es geht nicht mehr so richtig es geht nicht mehr um Werte, es geht nur noch um Geld halt. Und dafür ist China für mich der größte Garant. Das ist halt so, ne, der Global Player, das ist super wichtig, weil die Absatzmärkte in China für die ganzen deutschen Autos sind super wichtig und deswegen sind alle Leute halt richtig Friends mit denen. Und jetzt die ganze Nummer, wie das abgelaufen ist einfach, man kann das einfach, egal ob das jetzt stimmt oder nicht, ich glaube daran, so scheiße wie die unterwegs sind, dass irgendwas auf deren Mist gewachsen ist. Weil das ist einfach so ein Feeling. Und faktisch wissen wir es beide nicht, weil Wissen ganz sicherlich nicht auf diesem Level so ankommt, dass wir das jeweils erfahren könnten.
Naja.
Aber es ist schon interessant, wie das so, das nimmt ja auch total rassistische Züge in Amerika an sich, ne? Wie das, also die haben ja sowieso eine krasse, das sind ja die neuen Russen für die Chinesen halt einfach, das ist der Feind. So weit würde ich ja nicht gehen. Ich würde ja nicht, mir geht es ja, jetzt ist das Licht ausgegangen.
Ja. Nee, das stimmt auf jeden Fall. Ich meine, ein Kumpel von mir hat eine Weltreise gemacht und der hat mich dann in Buenos Aires besucht und der war davor in China und er hat